Good evening, everyone, and welcome back to Toon Talk Sunday Sesh. And welcome us today. We have Lormor, former Newcastle player. Absolute honour to have you here tonight.
No, that's brilliant, mate. Thank you very much for inviting me on.
Yeah, and I think once we put the kind of message out that you were coming on, and you're seeing the likes and the love, it just shows how much that you kind of thought about as well. It's really nice getting the likes and the loves, isn't it?
No, it is, yes. Yeah. I think any human being likes it, so I'd be lying if I said I didn't know.
We know lots of questions. I mean, all going back to the start, and obviously going from Wallsend Boys Club, and you hear that club mentioned a lot from Newcastle players, obviously the youth players coming into the squad. I mean, what was it kind of about that club at the time? Why was it so special in bringing the amount of players through the club it was?
I think what it was, the boys club had an affiliate, probably an unwritten affiliation with Newcastle. You see, so ultimately, if you are any good, then you got obviously sent to Newcastle for trials, and so I think from that, Wallsend obviously used to get a lot of the better players from the area as well, and it would, you're getting the better players playing for your 11-a-side teams, and then the better players from that then have a chance of going on to Newcastle. And I think it was just it was a fantastic experience. They taught us so much about good manners, just doing the right things. But then within that, it's all about the will to win, and then you take that into going into Newcastle. 12-year-old, you wander into Newcastle and into bed.
Yeah.
You think, what on earth's going on here? And life just snowballs, really. Just goes really quickly, and you just roll with it to a certain extent.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, with yourself as well. I mean, how did the move all come around from the boys' club? Was it kind of picked up in a game, or was it sent out for trials at that time?
Well, it's funny. I was thinking about this over the last few days. So to get where I was, to that opportunity at like 11, 12-year-old, lots of things had to fall into place, and I go right. If you go right back, obviously I started my first real football was at High Farm Middle School, and if you can imagine, we all the lads there together, we all turned up, we all had trials, we all of a sudden picked in a team, and we as a team for 3 years we never lost a match. We lost our final, very, very last match, which was a county cup final. And that just sort of like sowed the seed. Really, that was just such a great platform. And so, like, we had a really good school team, and then from there we went and played 5-a-side at the boys' club, because that was most people did. So you sort of get spotted by obviously playing for your school, and then if you're doing well, even like playing 5-a-side. So I remember got asked to go and play for the under-9s at Wallsend, and the manager at the time is a guy called Brian Clark, who is obviously really well known within the Northeast, and fantastic guy. And it was really strange because I think I was about 11-year-old, and I was almost about 6 foot tall. I was really tall, so I was gangly. I had massive feet, I had massive ears, massive feet, and I was like dead skinny. So I had like nothing going for me as a footballer, but I just had this insatiable appetite of scoring goals. And I always remember I must have been awful, like, to try and coach and to teach, but Brian just stuck with us and stuck with us and stuck with us, and then ultimately I was scoring loads of goals. And then from there I went to Newcastle and had a trial. And obviously my body must have started fitting my ears and my legs, and I sort of started doing okay, And I do remember, playing in friendly matches and training sessions, and just scoring goals. And if you are at any level and you're scoring goals, people will like, And I remember being 12-year-old and being stuck in an under-14 match with Newcastle. So they had lots of different ways of testing you and challenging you, and I just must have passed everything as you go along. And It's 14, you get signed on as a schoolboy. So you get like schoolboy forms for 2 years, and that's your 2 years left at school. And so I got involved, and you just hang in there, And I think I was 15. I got involved with the youth team, and at the youth team played in an under-19 league, So that was
good stuff.
It was tough, that Northern Intermediate League, and that's soon woke you up, And so we could be traveling to anywhere really, but most teams were in Yorkshire, North Yorkshire, so we'd you'd go there for 11 o'clock kickoff, 12 o'clock kickoff, and I'd be 15-year-old, and you'd be playing against the under-19s from whoever,
Yeah.
We just had some really good games, and it really tested you, And it's sort of, if you weren't strong enough, then you just fell by the wayside,
Yeah.
And I was just, I don't know. I think besides, obviously, I got away with a lot of things, which I made sure it worked in my favour.
No, I think it's just very important to go back to, like, as you say, playing for your school, playing for your clubs, just playing with your friends five-a-side. And I think a lot of youth players miss that now, where I think it's a real way, if you are playing for academy, you kind of can't play in their matches, or you get kind of not told to play with your friends. And I think that's a massive part of when the football, obviously back 10, 15 years ago, when you were kicking the ball about in the street and you were getting kicked about by your friends and playing five-a-side down the park. I think that was a massive part of footballers kind of growing up as a players, isn't it?
Yeah, man. I mean, what was it? I moved to Battle Hill when I was 14, so obviously, like, we grew up on a, obviously fairly rough council estate, if you want to put it that way. But so in Battle Hill School Field, there was, like, I can't remember the exact time, but it was like 2 o'clock on a Sunday. Everybody would turn up for a game.
Yeah.
And it was like, if you were 9 or you were 25, whatever in between, you'd have this game of football. And I just remember hundreds, but you'd get, like, I don't know, 15, 20, 30 people all turning up, just having a game of footy. You'd chuck down, like 2 goals, chuck the football on and get on with it, really.
Yeah.
And again, that was a massive test. That was a huge test.
Definitely, yeah.
Against men, so. And then I grew up next door. I live next door, Alan Thompson. So,
right.
So obviously he's obviously probably about 3 or 4 years younger than me. But again, another fantastic talent. But he was on the school field. You know what I mean? He'd be playing as well. And I think, like you said about the academy system, that's a tough system to come through. I've worked in a couple down here in the Midlands, and they are tough. And it all depends how you want to do it, really, because it is very sterile. It's very, very professional. You know what I mean? It's done the correct way by all the clubs, but it's a tough environment for the kids, because if they're not good enough and they get released, all of a sudden, they've not seen their mates for maybe 4, 5, 6 years, and all of a sudden they've got to sort of re-engage their life at 14, 15, 16-year-old, and it's really tough. That is very, very tough.
No, I bet. I think that was one of the questions as well, just when you mentioned the school. I was trying to think the school all day. There was a question that was asked on Twitter about who the best player was at school. But I think it was only by your classmates. So who was the best player at school?
Well, funny enough, I seen it on Twitter, and 80 was he was my best mate at school. Do you know what I mean? We went everywhere together, So we used to meet up and go to school together, even down at Burnside. So it'd be unfair to pick one, because we just had, do you know what I mean? I know you talk about sitting on the fence, but it was like we had Lee Byers in goal, we had Paul Fairley, Alan Conway, Michael Barkis, Mark Bruff, Colin Turnbull, Graham Condren. We had a guy called Tommy Rantoul, who was a year below us and played in our team. He was a fantastic player. Obviously, 80 as well. We just had... you can't imagine it. Do you know what I mean? All of a sudden, you've got
all came together well.
Just gelled and played in this team. And I remember, like, the first year we got through, and we ended up, we won every game. And then you end up in the County Cup final. I think we were 10-year-old. God knows where we were playing, but we won that, and then we did exactly the same the year after. We had some really good games against Valley Gardens from Whitley Bay. Then we always seemed to play St Cuthbert's from Newcastle and stuff like that. So, it was an amazing experience. just to consider, like, you've got all these lads all trooped together. We've all been playing, kicking it against the garages for God knows how long, and
Yeah.
all that literally gelled, and everybody got on really well with each other. And then, like, when we finished middle school, we moved to, obviously we all went to Burnside, and then we Burnside, and then the teachers' strike came in, so obviously all
Right. Yeah.
school activities stopped. So we had this really successful team, and then all of a sudden we moved on to the next stage, and it never happened.
Yeah.
And then obviously a lot of lads find different paths and what they want to do and don't want to do.
Yeah, that's it, isn't it?
Yeah, and I was fairly ruthless, to be honest. Even at 14, I knew what I wanted to do, and what was it? I had a path I wanted to go down, and I didn't really want anything to get in the way to it, to be honest. So
yeah, stuck at it.
Yeah,
Best
and
way,
you know, I grew up in Newcastle. Everyone wants to play for Newcastle. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, of course, isn't it?
The actual percentage of people who do it, is fairly small. So I feel really, really lucky and thankful to all the lads that I played with, because without them, you know what I mean, you're nothing. If we turn it and we've got a rubbish school team, then it might never.
Yeah, don't get the scouts there, isn't it? Yeah, that's it.
It is. Yeah.
So coming through, obviously the youth ranks at Newcastle, and obviously going back to the academies, like I say, now a few of the players kind of get it too easy. What was it like coming through that youth period towards the first team? Was it kind of working in around the stadium? Was it cleaning the boots? Who was there? What was it like at that time?
No, it was brilliant. I mean, what was it? I better be careful what I say, but we had initiations in them days. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So obviously, won't go into them too much. What was it? So I don't want to get Newcastle in trouble. But yeah, I mean, what they were, they just set really high standards.
Yeah.
So I mean, I remember, like, the first time I was there, I probably had 3 or 4 players to look after. I had Glenn Roder, club captain.
Nice, yeah.
I'm sure I definitely had Ian Bogey, and I think might have, I'm telling you, the third one might be maybe Albert Craig or something like that. And we were, you talk about luck and fortune and stuff like that. So we had the first team coach was a guy called John Pickering, a really forward-thinking coach, but he'd been the youth team coach at Newcastle, right. And he set up a scheme where if there wasn't a midweek game on I think it was a Monday or a Tuesday, 2 youth team players would go and train with the first team just to give you of standards and stuff like that. And I just remember just being involved in that and going across and playing and enjoying it. And I remember pre-season, I was dead fit. I was really, really fit. So again, you've made an impression on that. Obviously, 15, I was playing for the youth team. As soon as I think within a week of me starting, or the season starting, I played for the reserves. And that was in the Central League as well, which is a very, very really competitive league. So doing well in that. And then again, you talk about fate. I remember being involved in a game which the first team were playing, I'm sure it was Queen of the South. And I think we were opening their stand or floodlights.
Oh, yes, yeah.
And so I got a job to go along as, skip boy, do you know what I mean? So you carry the skips and you help with the kit and the boots and all that. And then, so I'm sure we trained during the day as the YT. And then as the bus left, I had my kit with us. Do you know what I mean? I had my boots with us and my bag. So I just obviously just took everything on the coach and then went. And I remember we got to Queen in the South, and then John Pickering had said, "Oh, well, look, if you've got your stuff, stick your stuff on and just join in with the lads in the warm-up." So I'm warming up with the first team, and then and he said, and I remember coming in and he was like, "Well, there's no point in you getting changed. Just keep your gear on, go and sit on the bench." You know what I mean? Well, it's a friendly, sit on the bench, stuff like that. And then within about 10 minutes, someone got injured. A forward got injured.
Oh, yeah.
And obviously, with it being not a particularly, I don't think it was a massively bad injury, but just and he looked around, and I think I was the only forward on the bench, and he was like, "Oh, go and get yourself on." So you don't have any sort of time to think, "Oh my God, I'm playing for the first team," whether it's the Queen of the South or.
Oh, definitely.
And I went on and scored, and within about I can't remember the exact, but I remember I think we won 3-1 or something like that, and I end up scoring. And then from then on, just things just at that age just spiraled, it spiraled out of control, really, to the point of, the next minute is you're just involved with the first team, then you're going,
Yeah,
you're traveling in away games, and then you're in the squad at St James's Park, and you're just like, what the heck's happening? Yeah,
just hits you, doesn't it?
Yeah. And again, John obviously was really sort of helpful in that, because he knew us, and because I was substitute at the Wimbledon game, when Gazza and Vinnie Jones had all.
Oh yes, yeah.
So I was substitute then. I was 17, and it was you only allowed 2 subs then, and I mean that was a rough game. Like John Fashanu was competing for fun, a really tough game. And remember, John came across. We're getting beat 1-0, and he says, "Look, he says, you're 17. He says, there's no chance you're going on. I'm not putting you on. Yes, he says, don't get excited and don't think you're going on, or don't get upset because we're losing 1-0. And he just looked after me with like little things like that. And then I got chucked on. I played in the friendly against Monaco. So I played up front with Mirandina. Gaza played against French internationals. Glenn Hoddle played for them. Mark Haley. Right. So that was, I think we may have got beat 1-0 or 2-0 or something like that. But again, just a fantastic experience. And then you get chucked on for 2 minutes at a home game against Spurs, and it was just an amazing experience. You cannot put it any other way, really. But sometimes you can imagine, like, living in the North East, I said this before, it's all you ever want to do is play for Newcastle, and sometimes you just go on and just like stand and stare at the headlights. But because the way you're brought up and the standards that were given, and the standards set by the pros and all that, you just want to let anybody down, and you just got on it. And I remember that I think I got on for 2 minutes against Spurs, and I think I got megged off Chrissy Waddle. I kicked Osvaldo all the years, and then that was about it. But life was good, I played. So I obviously I was subbed for a few games, and then I think it was 3 games to go, the game against Oxford. So I got a phone call so John Pickering rang me on the Friday afternoon. He said, look, we're going to play on Saturday. You're going to make your debut on Saturday. She said, if anybody rings you, don't tell anybody. She said, I don't want the press to know. Anything like that. She says, so I was living in Battle Hill. So the Friday night, obviously I was fairly nervous. And I thought, well, in them days, we didn't have mobile. So I thought, well, I'll get out of the house. So I walked to the Coast Road shops, bought a bag of sweets and walked home. And that was like sort of my way of getting out of the house. And that was a little ritual sort of thing. But then the morning or the day of the game, I didn't have a car. So I got the bus to Eldon Square. I got my bus to Eldon Square, got off Eldon Square, walked up through the town, went to the ground with my boots and all that. And then played and scored, and the rest is history. But then afterwards, I remember walking back into Eldon Square, getting the bus back to Battle Hill, and there was still loads of fans milling about. So now sat on the bus, loads of Newcastle fans around me, and I've just scored at my debut and never said a word, and just sat there and got off and walked home. So it was all a really surreal experience, really, and like you say, I can remember it vividly now, you know what I mean? So it's stuck with me for the rest of my life, really.
I'm glad you said you went to the sweet shop, because when you said you went out to Battle Hill, I thought you said you were going to go for a kickabout the night before a game with all your friends. I was thinking, no way.
I was even trying to wrap myself up in cotton wool.
Oh, I bet. I mean, that was my next one, obviously, going on to the debut against Spurs. And I mean, coming on as a sub, was it Mirandina, wasn't it, when you came on as a sub? I mean, what was that feeling like at the time, making that debut, which must have been amazing?
Yeah, it was fantastic. Do you know what I mean? And the walking on, people call it the hallowed turf and stuff like that, or whichever game you go at. Once you cross that white line, that piece of grass it's weird. It's a weird sensation. Do you know what I mean? So you can warm up as much as you want. You can walk around the track. You can stand and watch the match. And it's once you just cross that line, there's a different energy. There's a different experience. The noise is different. And you're in a brutal environment, you know what I mean? Because whether, I'm coming on for my two, I think we were 2-0 up, and you come on for 2 minutes, and it's your like 2 minutes of glory. But Spurs couldn't care less. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Spurs want to try and get back in the match. If someone can kick us, they'll kick us. Do you know what I mean? And so it was just, it was fair. It was an unreal experience. And you're walking on, and you just sort of, just walking past players of the ilk of Glenn Roeder, Dave McCreary, Paul Gascoigne. Paul was brilliant.
Yeah.
Paul was fantastic, because all he ever said to me was, he says, and he said this in probably the first training session. He says, look, all you got to do is control the ball, and wherever I am, just give me the ball.
Yeah.
All you got to do, just give me the ball. He says, I don't care if there's men on me, and I look for it. He says, just give me the ball and get in the box. And
yes.
Well, that's all I did, and I just kept it really simple. I think one of the good things was I knew my limitations. I knew I wasn't massively quick. I wasn't a dribbler. I would, so I didn't. I wasn't one for tricks. Do you know what I mean? So I just sort of knew what I could do, and I just sort of kept it really simple. And albeit the Spurs game, I didn't have any effort to goal or nothing like that. And it sows the seed, and we've all got egos, and you just go, fancy a bit of this, I really enjoy it.
Yeah, definitely, I bet.
Well, you either, it goes one or two ways. You either go, God, I can't do this again, or you go,
yeah,
I love this. I want a bit of this.
Want some more of that.
Yeah, I wanted some more of that, so.
That's what I was going to ask. Obviously, coming off the pitch, and obviously being quite young at the time, what was that? What was that like in the change rooms afterwards? Was the kind of the first team kind of coming congratulation you, or was it kind of just a buzz from yourself? I bet you were kind of up most of the night, kind of thinking about replaying about your head and stuff.
I think, yeah. Before the game, obviously being substitute, the lads were really pleased. But
yeah,
again, you're in a harsh environment. Do you know what I mean? The lad. Couldn't care less to a certain extent, because they've got to win. You know what I mean? And it was funny, because like, you're 17-year-old, and for the first time, everyone's got their own little rituals and stuff like that. And, I adored Glenn Roeder. He was such a nice person. You know what I mean? And in training and around the building, he just set such high standards. Do you know what I mean? But then he had a ritual where, so I'm 17-year-old. My first time I've ever seen the bottle of whiskey on the table before the match. You know what I mean? So there was like a couple of lads that have a swig of whiskey,
Yeah.
Next minute, Glenn was captain. He was the last one. He picks up the whiskey bottle and then literally fills his mouth with whiskey, like shakes it about, and then he spits it in his hand and washes his face with it.
Oh yeah.
And at 17, you're like, what's going on? Do you know what I mean? So it was just, but that was how everybody had something different, and and everybody had ways and means of doing things. I'm sure David McCreary used to warm up in his jockeys, his underpants. He'd have his socks,
yeah.
You know what I mean, and his shirt and everything. The last thing he put on was his shorts, and then obviously Gaz is just a bundle of activity, just involved in everything. And in them days, we got changed in the lasers end with in the porter cabins, so we didn't have a massive amount of room. You know what I mean? You're rattling off walls, and walls were thin, and I think a lot of it, people just wanted to get out on the pitch and do the bit, to be honest. Shall I keep rapping? Because I think you froze. And then from that, games just roll on and on, So I was really fortunate. Oxford game, I think it was Oxford, Portsmouth. I managed to score 2 and 2 over the Easter weekend. And then the final game was Millwall at home, which wasn't a great game, to be honest. But it was just another fantastic experience to play. And just to be involved and play at St James's Park. The sad thing with that was, in the summer, we ended up having all the lads, all the apprentices, we all went to San Antonio. So 1988, we're all in San Antonio on the beach and stuff like that. And then from San Antonio, we had to go and play a tournament in Spain with the youth team, and so that didn't happen particularly well. And I remember picking up a virus when I was there, and I was really ill. And then that sort of put me back almost 3 or 4 months. Came back for pre-season, and I was knackered, and I really struggled for a few months. But managed to squeeze my way back into the team, and I think we needed to win the last 3 games of the season, and I got in against West Ham on a Tuesday night and managed to score after 90 seconds, but we got beaten, got relegated from there. So that's been my only relegation as a professional footballer. So it was and it was a really sad evening. I remember it was really bad, and there was loads of things going on with the board and sack the board and this, that, and other. So it was all quite an unsavoury. Although I was back in the team and playing, it's quite an unsavoury end to the season, which I didn't particularly enjoy.
Can you hear us, Anf?
Yeah, I've got you back now. Yeah,
you're back there. You know what they say about the internet in Sunderland? It's always turned off.
He's all still sharing one router.
It wasn't turned on last night after that 6-0.
I bet, yeah. That was a feeling episode. Sorry, mate, I've just twittered on for about 5 minutes about a load of rubbish, but
no, great. But just going back to that, I mean, speaking about managers, well, I know you had a lot to say about Willie McFall when we did the interview in Toon Talk and the written, but was it Smith that gave you the debut at the time? Is that right?
So no, Willie McFall gave me my debut. So I had obviously about half a dozen games between starting and substituting, and then obviously through the course of the next season, he ended up getting the sack. The club weren't doing well. The Jim Smith came in and obviously desperately needed to try and keep the club up. Brought in or played a lot of the senior players, but I managed, like I was saying before, managed to squeeze in for the last 3 games of the season. 18-year-old, I was chucked in. We needed to win our last 3. West Ham at home, so it was just a bit of rabbit in the headlights sort of thing. So and ultimately, I was just saying before, we got beat off West Ham, and that we were relegated with 2 games to go. So someone else using the internet in Sunderland again. So in the end, I think, he's back. He must put 50p in the meter again. He put 50p in the meter again.
She says the winds are picking up again. Oh, it was a nightmare yesterday with the winds. Well, yeah, just go obviously back to the minute. Yeah, really bad. Yeah, luckily we didn't have any tiles, but there was stuff flying all over the gardens. So I think it's picking back up again. Storm. There's another name. Storm. Someone's on this way. But no, just getting back to obviously obviously you're speaking about the managers and stuff as well. But some of them strikers that was at the club at the time, obviously Hendry, Maradina. What was it like, kind of looking up to them type of players and training as well and learning from them?
Well, as a young lad, you just soaked in as much information as you possibly can, and you've seen how they conducted themselves, how they performed, how they trained. I said earlier on, we had some fantastic, people who set some really good standards. Your Kenny Whartons, what I mean, just fiercely competitive, and in training. I remember one training session, we had a small sided game, and I headed an easy chance over the bar, and Glenn Roder stopped training and absolutely tore a shred off me in front of everyone, and just was like, "You can't do that." Do you know what I mean? That's not acceptable. This opportunity is easy. We should have been 1-1. Now we're 1-0 down. If they go ahead and it's 2-0, so things like that stick in your mind, and it's. They're the standards you try and take on in your life, really, and it was, they were fantastic people to work with, if you did your bit, worked hard, rolled your sleeves up and kept your nose clean, then you got on really, really well. I think that, if you came in with a bit of an edge or a bit of an attitude and stuff like that, then you soon got your wings clipped. And thankfully, I never ever had that problem. I always felt, I was fairly level-headed, and I just enjoyed playing football. And that's how I sort of conducted myself. But I mean, as you can well imagine, Jim Smith came in. I think his first day was we had a reserve game, so we're at home to Notts Forest. The Notts Forest would win the Central League every year. They were the team to beat, and I was substitute. And Colin Suggett was taking the team, and he. So we've come in at half time, 1-0 ahead against Forest. So we're doing all right. Colin's doing a bit of a team talk and seeing this and doing that, and we're doing okay with this, we're doing okay with that. And then next minute, we just heard the door just getting. This door, obviously changing room door, flies open. Next minute, Jim Smith walks in, and absolutely fierce like thunder. And then he absolutely tore shreds off everyone. Really, just sort of slaughtered everybody that was in that team and dressing room. And then after he'd finished, he went. Right, he made I think he made a couple of substitutions, and he dragged a couple of people off, and he went and I remember pointing to me, and he went, "You go and play where he played like that. You go and take his position like that." So I was like, "All right, no worries." So I just sort of started getting changed, putting my gear on and all that, and I noticed he'd swapped me for a right back. So I was centre forward, obviously playing centre forward, and he basically pulled the right back off and told me to go and change positions with him. So I was like, well, I thought to myself, well, Jim's doesn't look like he's in a mood for me going. Well, I don't really play a right back, so I sort of had to go to. I went to Colin Suggett and said, like, does he know I don't play a right back? And he was like, so we had to change the team around, and ultimately, as a young lad, you just sort of you go with you take the punches and you just roll with it, and then. But what he was doing was he's obviously setting his stall out for the season and how he wanted to play training and stuff like that. And it was a brutal, and it's a brutal industry. Do you know what I mean? And you just you have to go with it. And do you know what I mean? But we had some really young lads in the team, even in the reserves, and we were doing well. And you know what I mean? We probably ruined a couple of lads' careers. You know what I mean? In that 5-minute tirade he had. So but I just kept chipping away. That year I just kept chipping away. I'd been ill, so I hadn't played a lot in and around the first team. Obviously they needed to play well, and I remember playing the reserve match at Sunderland at Roker Park.
Nice.
I think we got beat 3-2, but I played really well, and I scored a good goal, and he was there that night, and from then on, I sort of mentioned earlier, and I got put back in that season with 3 games to go against West Ham. I was only 18 at the time, and we needed to win our last 3 games to stay up.
Right.
And I managed to score after about 90 seconds. So we've got 1-0 up, but in the end we got beat 2-1 and we got relegated. And then there was loads of things about it after you getting the board out, and so there was pitching in unrest, and it wasn't a great time to be around the club. But the sort of the club had a chance in the summer to sort of obviously reevaluate where it was, and from that point of view, Mark McGee came in, Mickey Quinn came in, John Robertson. The club spent a lot of money, and I knew. I mean, I wasn't going to get ahead of Mark McGee and Mickey Quinn, and then Mickey Quinn comes in and scores 4 on his debut. So, the next season. So as a young lad, you just go like, well, let's see where it goes and how. And you sort of just roll with the punches. But I think I knew then, and I have to be totally honest. I mean, I probably wasn't good enough at that age to play at a standard, because ultimately the club were in the Championship. They needed to get out. Was I going to provide 20-25 goals that season to get them out of the Championship? I would love to have said yes, but I was probably still a bit naive and ready for that challenge, So I sort of accepted that. My path might be going down another path, and then I got a phone call, funny enough, from John Pickering, who was Lincoln City's first team coach, and he just says, "Your friends coming down, let's work together again," and that's where the sort of move from Newcastle to Lincoln all transpired at the beginning of 1990. And in 19, that was a massive decision for me, because I lived at home with my mum and my brother, and to move away at 19 was a huge decision. But I trusted John, obviously with my life to a certain extent, because at 19-year-old I moved away from home, and in 19 I bought a house, and sort of went in 2-footed into making sure everything worked at Lincoln. And I really saw an opportunity to come down the leagues, to play on a regular basis, and make a statement, and try and get back to the leagues. And when I sat down with John, and that was the plan, really. So I signed for Lincoln February 1990. I played till so we played the rest of the season. So I played, I think they were in League 4 then, and then I think I got about a dozen or so goals. So I was doing really well. I hit the ground running. I was flying. I was doing, I was playing well. There'd been in the local paper, there'd been a couple of bids in for me. And Harry Redknapp had supposedly bid 250 grand from Bournemouth, and so I was, things were going really, really well. So it comes to the end of the season, and in them days, I don't think they had playoffs. But I think Lincoln we'd missed out on promotion, but we sort of set our stall out for the next season, and so so at the end of the season, usually go in for a day to tidy everything up, and anybody out of contract and things like that. So we've all gone in for our final meeting and stuff like that. And obviously, usually what happens is everybody goes for a beer, like an end of season beer and that. And so we'd finished the season. We'd finished the meeting. We'd gone for a beer. I was at the top of the street from where the ground was. I remember clearly I was playing pool, and then next minute, like through the pub doors open, and one of the apprentices came in and says, John wants you. He says, can you go back to the ground now? So I says, all right, yeah. I says, I can get back. So he walks back to the ground. So you think, well, what does John want now? I thought it was like, oh gosh, I think Lincoln's going to sell me. Yeah, you know, obviously someone's coming on the bid, and so I was all prepared for being sold again. And so I've come down, and as I've got the ground, John's met us, and he says, "Come on, let's go for a walk." Well, I walk around the pitch. So I'm like, this is definitely happening, you know, that obviously selling this and stuff like that. And then he says, oh, I just want to know. He says, I've been approached by Middlesbrough. He says, Middlesbrough want me to go up as their first team coach. And he just said, I can't turn it down. He says, I've got to go.
Yeah.
And I was, so first of all, I was gutted because I thought I was being sold. And then I was gutted because the reason I signed for Lincoln was only really because of John.
Yeah.
And to play loads of games. And if it hadn't been for John, I probably would never signed for Lincoln. And then for that, it was almost like the rug had been pulled out from underneath me, you know, and that sort of set me back quite a bit. And he obviously said, like, he says, you continue doing well, and you know, if you're doing well in Middlesbrough, you're looking for a striker, we'll keep our eye on you and stuff like that. And then, so obviously, yeah, I came back pre-season, and you wanted to be fit and get on with it. The pre-season came around, beginning next season, fractured my eye socket, missed 6 to 8 weeks with that. Came back, tore my cartilage, missed 6 weeks with that, and then the season was all, you know, a bit hit and miss from there on. And it took me a little while to get going again. And then from there, I had an okay season with Lincoln, but all of a sudden you get to a point where you are a lower league footballer, you know, and I was sort of evolving into that. And then come the end of that season, I ended up in a training session. I ended up snapping every ligament in my right knee. So I snapped my anterior and my posterior cruciate ligament, which ultimately that was my career over, really, or getting back into like the Premier League and League Ones and stuff like that. That was never going to happen. And I remember having an operation to obviously redo my knee, and I didn't play for 16 months, and I was never the same player again, to be honest. I used to play with a limp, and that sort of period that culminated in 4 years at Lincoln, which was it came to a bit of a sour end, to be honest. And and then from then on, ultimately, what I should have done was, I think I was like 23, 24, I should have retired, but I didn't have that option. So football was all I knew, so I continued playing. I ended up, and then I was really fortunate. The rest of my career, I sort of got away with, you know, quite a bit with my knee. My knee was never right. But, you know, I ended up, I had 4 years at Chesterfield, played at Wembley in the playoff final and scored. It was involved in the cup run, so we got the semi-final of the FA Cup. And all in all, I think probably then in my football career, I played getting on for the best part of 400 games, and probably scored, I don't know, best part of 140 goals, something like that. So all in all, it was a career that, you know, I sort of had I dug out at the end, and I became a journeyman, and had, you know, the old fashioned, had more clubs than Jack Nicklaus, and but I just feel it's just an industry which,
but it's amazing though, isn't it? Yeah.
When you're in it, you there's no logic in football. Anything. It never ever has been. You know, there still isn't any logic in football. And when you're in it, you're just fully encapsulated by it. You know.
Yeah, it's like a bubble a bit. Yeah.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, and playing, and all of a sudden you finish playing, and you got to find something to do. And I was commercial manager at a couple of football clubs, and I was kit man at Chesterfield, and that draw of going back to football is always there, you know. And I did a little bit of coaching, like I said, at the beginning with the academies. I worked at Mansfield, their School of Excellence, in Derby's academy, which were both fantastic, but just not quite for me, you know.
Yeah,
I enjoyed coaching and didn't enjoy paperwork. So, so it was just a case of you get to a point where you sort of get to like, what was I getting to my late 40s or mid 40s or hours, and then you're just going, oh my God, I've been in football for like 30 odd years, So,
No.
so
I've
I
got
was
loads of
all that
questions
all my
down.
career, to be honest.
Lots of questions down, but I think you've maybe talked to the guests when I've been away there. So what it is, it's actually the Sky. It's the Sky itself. It's totally gone off, and we're waiting for repairs on it at the moment.
Oh no.
Something in the area, this one, but we've always had a text through. But luckily, it comes on now and again. But I'm sure you've kept them going.
No, wait, I've tried. I probably bored everyone. Everyone will be fast asleep now. So.
Wow, no, definitely not. But no, I mean, speaking to some of the clubs that you've obviously played for, and as you said, you've travelled around the UK playing football for a lot of different football clubs in front of a lot of different football fans. They can't get any better than that, surely.
Oh God, no! I was saying before, he's just getting this bubble. Do you know what I mean? And it just rolls on. Rolls on and on and on. And you just, I keep talking about you roll with the punches. And the good days, the bad days outweigh the good days. But when the good days come along, they're amazing. And,
yeah.
I mean, I had the opportunity to play and score at Wembley. Do you know what I mean? I mean, blow my neck. Somebody, when you go back to high farm middle school, someone gives you that, you'd snap the hand off. So, yeah, and fans never change. Whether, and I always remember doing an interview with Chesterfield, and someone said about you scoring goals and this, that, and other, and I said, look, if I was a Martian and I was green, fans don't care less. If I scored goals, love us, and whether I'm, 6 foot and gangly, not very good, and stuff, however teams and fans see you, it's, as long as you're scoring goals as a forward, nobody really gives to.
Doing the job, isn't it? Yeah, that's it.
It is, yeah. And, and if you're winning, it glosses over so many things, and, if you're not involved in sport to a certain high level, it's really difficult to get across that perception of how important it is to win.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Or what you would do to win, and the lengths you would do, to win a football match, and people, that you've had on your show, that will probably talk the same thing. You turn up on a Saturday or a Tuesday or whatever night it is, play a football match. You do anything you possibly can to win.
Definitely. I always say the same in training. I think you train the same way as you play. You go out to even just a daft game of five-a-side, you want to win that game. You're playing with your mates down the park, you want to win it. Yeah. And I think that's kind of drilled into you, isn't it? Quite young when you're playing football, you watch it, and you see it's all about winning and scoring them goals and getting them trophies at the end of the day, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Yeah. And I mean, I've got 4 children. I always remember them growing up. I wouldn't let them win anything.
Yeah,
they had to earn the right to win.
Definitely.
You know what I mean? And if that was, Kaplunk or Connect 4 or Monopoly, do you know what I mean? You're like, I wouldn't go easy on them. You still wanted to beat me kids. Do you know what I mean? So
definitely.
So that competitive spirit never changes, really. And I would imagine if you ask the people around me now, I'm probably still fairly competitive. And a pain in the ass and grumpy and all stuff.
I mean, just going back all obviously the appearances and the goals you've scored, if you can, I know it'll be tough, but if you can pick one best memory out of kind of that time of traveling the UK playing for them, some of them great clubs, what would be your best memory out of them?
Well, the goal against Oxford for Newcastle.
Yeah.
So if you just go so your debut, 4 minutes in, diving header from a yard out, Gallagher end, which was full. It doesn't get any better than that. Do you know what I mean? Nobody remembers. Nobody remembers it's a yard out. Do you know what I mean? And that was just an experience I'll never forget. I think all the team, bar the goalkeeper, ended up in the back of the net. And they all and celebrating. I scored a couple of important goals for Chesterfield. I remember scoring a goal from about 35 yards. I was talking to somebody the other day about this, and then I miscontrolled the ball, and I was dead angry. We had a really important game at Walsall. It was really muddy. I miscontrolled the ball, and it went past me and the defender. And it just thought, I saw this. Do you know what I mean? That was ridiculous. And the next minute, ball bobbled up, and it smashed him for 35 yards. We won the game, and it's quite an iconic moment in through obviously Chesterfield fans and stuff like that. So yeah, it was you know, I think you celebrated every goal as almost if it was as your last. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you never score again. So I always enjoyed scoring goals, and even so, like the last club I played for, I played at Shrewsbury on loan, and then and that was like my knee was gone. I was 15 stone. I couldn't play 90 minutes.
Yeah.
But you know, I was a mess of a professional athlete, but you had that will to win. And I remember scoring a couple of goals while I was there, and absolutely loving it, you know. And even
No,
if
definitely.
you know, but that never changes. Now you get older. I mean, I'm now of an age where I work for Chesterfield now in their community team.
Right. Oh,
so,
yes, yeah.
So a part of it is we have they play walking football on a Monday.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah.
Yeah. So I got invited down. Obviously, so first time I'm there, I've lost my rag with some poor fella. So I'm spitting feathers at some fella because he said I was cheating. And then, but it never changes, you know.
Yeah.
Whenever that whistle goes, and whether it's an over 50s walking football match, you don't want to get
Definitely.
beat. Do you know what I mean?
Well, that's it.
And I found that competitive edge never goes, you know. So
no, I mean that moves on to the next thing. I mean, just when, as we said, when we put the show out that you were coming on, I mean, like we said before the show, there we've had Paul mention, say hello, and Frodo as well, and just another message that came in there from Adrian Blakey. I remember every minute of your Toon debut with your family in the East End, amazing, and it's just little things like this. I love how it brings back memories for so many people, and that's one of the main reasons I love doing this. It's just seeing a smile on people's face again when they're kind of talking about their memories, isn't it?
yeah, definitely, yeah. And you know, you got all those lads. You got all those lads that you grew up with, you know.
Yeah.
And me and Eddie, who's messaged you. I mean, going through school, we were inseparable, you know. And he'd come to my house, and we'd walk down to Burnside, and the same for, and the same when we were at High Farm and stuff like that. And it's nice to know that they share in your memories as well.
Yeah.
You know? And you know, you got regrets in life or something like that. Really, like when you think about it, I was that focused and I use the word ruthless. Do you know what I mean? I was just blinkered about it, and then to a certain extent, you know what I mean, you end up going your different ways, you know, your different paths, and then next minute is you haven't seen people for years and 10 years and 15 years and stuff like that, and then life passes you by, you know, and you know you things like, you know, like Eddie, me and Eddie, like say, we're inseparable for years, and you know, you just think, well, I could have got 20 tickets or something like that, and all the lads I played football, you know, and you never do, and then I didn't do it, just because you just focused on playing the football, you know, and you know, so one of the regrets is, you know, you know, I sort of, you know, maybe should have looked after all my mates a little bit better, and sort of, you know, we should have stick together a lot more, and I probably went off on another path and didn't realize what I was doing at the time, you know. And I played golf with 80 probably 6 months ago, and that was probably the first time we really met almost since school finished, you know. And you just think, you know, from my point of view, that's quite sad, you know what I mean. I thought I should have, you know, you look back and you think I should have done a lot more with me mates.
Yeah, I mean, just going back, like you say, I mean, battling to get into this club and battling getting that club and battling getting the first team and keeping your place and battling through the injuries as well, as you say, as the career went on. Obviously, you can't let you go without mentioning the battle against cancer. And I mean, if people haven't heard before, I mean, how many times have you battled and beat cancer now? It's unbelievable.
Yeah, I mean, I've had a journey. So just over 9 years ago, I first got diagnosed with lymphoma. If nobody's heard of it, it's a uncurable cancer. It's a blood cancer. I've now had it 5 times. People talk about secondary cancer coming back and killing you. Well, it's had 5 goes so far, and I'm still here. Although I have to be honest, a couple of years ago, I got a bit touch and go. So yeah, I've sort of gone. I went through all the treatment. A couple of years ago came back highly aggressive, and I was at the hospital in Chesterfield. They couldn't find a chemotherapy that could manage and keep the cancer under control. They sent me to Sheffield, where I had a stem cell transplant. So ultimately, how to do it, I have no idea. But they take your stem cells out and basically blast you with chemo.
Yeah,
Put your stem cells back in, and it's almost like you reset your body clock to a certain extent. So, that was horrific, most horrific 2 weeks of my life. But ultimately, it did save us, you know.
Yeah.
And just over 2 years ago, I sort of, my consultant signed a form that I could cash in my pensions, and ultimately that form said I wouldn't live for 12 months. Thankfully, I'm 24 months or 25 months into that. So I outlived that. And then when I mentioned earlier on about being pig-headed and stubborn and, you know, competitive, I turned it into a game. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I really did turn it into a big game and just thought, right, let's see how we go, you know. And I sort of held up my hands and went, all right, I'm in a really sticky situation, and but I'm not going to fight it, as in I'm not going to challenge, you know. But this is now a football match, you know. You're like a
yeah, exactly.
match, you know, and you're not getting the better of us here, you know. And I did everything that's been asked of us. You know, I sort of got an attitude where, you know, I've just taken a stance of where I've accepted it, and one day it'll come back and kill us, if that's how you want to put it. But up until then, I'm going to try and make the most of a not great situation, you know. And you just want I want to try and help as many people as I can. I set up a support group. I work at the football club at Chesterfield. That was really to set up a cancer recovery group for other people.
Oh yes, yeah.
And so we are 3 months into that as a plan.
Brilliant.
And so yeah, but I mean, what was it? I've got two chemos left. So best part of 8 weeks time, that would be me. That would be my treatment. There's no more treatment left at the minute. There's no more treatment left that I can have. And my consultant said, like, obviously a couple of years ago, that my consultant said in Sheffield, if this comes back as aggressive as it did last time, then it's unmanageable. There's nothing left. So I sort of live with. It's almost going back. You change it to football. It's like having a week-to-week contract. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You know, it's you live life on a daily basis. You know, and the people probably sick of me at work a little bit when they come in. They go, "Well, how are you?" And I go, "Well, I've woke up this morning, so all right, day one." You know what I mean? That's a bonus. And obviously, I mentioned earlier on, I've had this cough and a cold, and I've got a little bit of an infection, and I'm on antibiotics. And it's weird how sort of life sort of just gives you that little kick up the backside every now and then, and a reality check. Because up until 4 weeks ago, I was running again. I've signed up to do the Sheffield Half Marathon. You know what I mean, I was running probably 3 times a week, and then all of a sudden, like, literally out of nowhere, just lost all my energy. Coughing I mean, I was literally coughing my guts up for about 2 weeks, and I haven't ran for the best part of just over 3 weeks now. I haven't had the energy to do it, and it'll probably be another good week or so before, you know, I can get out there. So
but,
you know, you sort of you have an opportunity, you have to take it, and it's almost like you go back to the football days. You know, someone's up there's given me an opportunity to continue life and to get on with stuff, and I'm going to take it. You know, and definitely back to that Tottenham Hotspur match. You know what I mean? You chucked on for 2 minutes, you go, right, I'm going to enjoy this for the best I can.
Time.
You know?
Definitely.
By the way, next week I want to be involved, and the next week after I'm being involved, and that's sort of how I live my life.
That's it. I mean, like you said, personally, when you see things, I've always looked at your challenges on your page and doing this, and obviously your runs and the great and offering as well. Absolutely fantastic.
Yeah,
And I know a lot of people said, obviously, inspiration to kind of to see the things that you are doing. And I know it was just last season or the season before, I ruptured my Achilles, and I was literally couldn't play football for 6, 7 months. I was in a pot, and I
yeah.
remember watching you doing these runs and the challenges and setting each other a challenge. And straight away, the doctor said you probably won't play again. It's one of the worst injuries you can get because it was kind of hanging on by a thread. They said,
Wow.
and as soon as I kind of got back, and I thought, and I seen your videos and your pitch that you put on, I thought, I'm going to do it. And it was literally because I seen your Facebook thing. I thought, yeah. And every day I was going out running. I think it was for a full month, and every day, even if I beat that last day by a second, that was like something big to me at the time because it was hard to it was hard to run. Obviously, I was getting a lot of pain still, but I was pushing through the boundaries just because of seeing your things on Facebook. So I think a lot of people have been touched by that.
No, that's brilliant, and that's what I want to do. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of like by mistake came up with a strap line. If you, I sort of had a throwaway comment, and I was doing a talk, and I just said, "Cancer doesn't have to be a death sentence." You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And all right, I mean, I haven't sort of been as on social media as much recently, and you think, well, people will get sick to death of you, but to hear stories like yourself, and thank you very much, but maybe it's a case of, and you continue with it, and I want to try and inspire as many people as I can, and
Yeah.
and if I get back running again soon, then I'll hopefully get them back on, and I always remember when I first got diagnosed 9 years ago, I sat down with a piece of paper, and I said I said, like, my plan, what am I going to do? I said I wanted to change the world. So 9 years ago, I wanted to change the world, and I was just like, sorry, I meant to change the world, but if you drop that pebble and it just the rings get bigger and stuff like that. And I just thought, if I change myself, and then maybe have a good influence on the people around me and stuff like that, then and that's what I've tried to do, and obviously as we go along and stuff like that, then you continue, and hopefully you can inspire people to do things and show that what is achievable. I mean, 2 years ago, I couldn't get off the sofa and go and make a cup of tea without being exhausted. But I've managed to do obviously a half marathon, and albeit I was trundling. I'm Tony the Trundler now. Maybe not so much runner, but hopefully you can inspire people to see life differently, or go, if he can do it, then why can't I do it? Or that's the reason I do it, really. So
Yeah, it was just changing that can't into can, isn't it? I think that was the main thing for me of seeing it and saying, oh, you can't do this again because it might go again, a little turn the wrong way, could rupture again. I thought, no, I can do it. Just you go out and do it, don't you? That's the main thing. Yeah.
I think
A
there's
couple of
probably nothing
other
better than somebody
questions for you.
talking to you with, hey.
Couple of more questions in there for you there now.
Just
about Adrian. He says obviously when you won the golf, Pete, you couldn't stay for the presentation, so he actually owes you £20. So there's another round of golf and a couple of beers possibly with Adrian there as well. Yeah.
Well,
and Colin as well.
I was meeting my brother for oh God, what was it? I'd arranged to meet my brother for a bite to eat afterwards. You see,
right? Yeah.
So like literally as we finished, I don't drink now. So obviously, so I don't drink. So I was, so I literally, I remember dropping my stuff off, and then I did disappear within about 5 minutes of the golf, and I tried to say my goodbyes and stuff like that. And then I remember leaving my golf trolley, and you know what I mean. So, but yeah, I mean, to get back in the northeast and have a game with the lads are brilliant, So I have so much catching up to do with them, to be honest. So.
I think from your old strike partner at school, Colin Turnbull, all the best to my old high school partner.
Yeah.
If I hadn't laid you on for all them goals, you would never score that goal in the Gaelic end against Oxford.
That sounds about right for spam, to be honest.
And finally, obviously, I always ask anyone that we have on, obviously, going back to Newcastle to finish with, the last couple of weeks, obviously, the excitement, obviously, it's not just looking to bring possibly one player on a loan deal. We spend millions now, and how exciting is it? And what do you think that the club can happen over the next couple of seasons going forward?
Yeah, I think you know what it is. Things are led by the leader, do you know what I mean, leads the club. Do you know what I mean? And you could see for like the last 10 years, the club was it accepted mediocrity,
Yeah.
and I mean, and then finishing 10th was fantastic, and or putting together a run, maybe 2 or 3 games, or nicking a win against Man U, or or giving Liverpool a good game and but still getting beat. Not people, the club accepted. Do you know what I mean?
That was enough, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, and you just see the difference. So we talk about leadership, you know what I mean, in life, and so the people have come in and sort of said, "This is what we're going to do," and they've done it. Do you know what I mean? And what that means is the players have to do it. Do you know what I mean? And so in footballers, I speak for myself. If you see, I was talking about like in inches. If you say like an inch, that someone gives you an inch, and it's maybe the owner or whatever, you take it. Do you know what I mean? And if you cut corners now, you just see that everything standards have just risen, which the expectation rises, and that's in with the fans and the players. You look, obviously Bruno, who was just signed, Trippier, who signed. That I seen a tweet the other day. I don't know if it was from yourself, but it was like I think last year, the year before, we were trying to sign Chowdhury on
loan. Yeah,
I mean, no disrespect to Chowdhury, do you know what I mean? But you look at 12 months time, the difference and the ambition, and I mean the club are still in a perilous position. That out of that 4 teams there, you would say 3 of them are going to go down, and sometimes, sometimes you have to sort of take a massive step back to take 2 or 3 massive strides forward, and I never want my club to get relegated, but it might not be the worst thing. Do you know what I mean? If it happens, it happens, and just so you can sort of press that reset button and just get expectations. And momentum's massive in sport. So either Newcastle get on a run now,
we do one, definitely.
And they get on a run and they get that momentum going forward, and they keep themselves up this year, or you get onto a fantastic run next year, and that carries you on in the years ahead, and so yeah, I just think I was up there for the Man City match, and I just seen smiles on people's faces.
Yeah,
do you know what I mean? People were coming to the match beforehand miserable, and then people who'd been coming for years weren't coming and getting rid of season tickets, and you just think that's not right. You know what I mean? That's not right in Newcastle. But now you see that that sparks back with everybody, and
definitely
expectations there, and the feel good factor, and however you want to put it, is back within the club.
Definitely.
And it was really funny when I was kit man at Chesterfield, and I worked with a guy called Paul Cook, and he used to say to me,
"Oh yes, yeah,
yeah." He had a say, and he says, "Right, whatever the players want, give them. Whatever they want, make sure they get it, because," he says, "we're going to ask so much of them over this season, and if we say yes now, we'll get our back tenfold." And I think and that could be Newcastle's situation at the minute. They just right, this is what you can have. Obviously they've gone to Saudi for a week's training and stuff like that, and so that's a bit different from Benton at the minute. And you know what I mean? So they're probably
just thinking
well. But the carrot is, guys, you've got to be on it. You know what I mean? We've got how many games left? A dozen games left. We need to get out of this. And so it'll be. I think it's going to be an interesting few weeks.
No, it's going to be massive, isn't it?
Yeah.
But no, honestly, and thank you so much for coming on, but keeping the show going as well. It looks like it looks like it's been fixed now. But no, it's been a pleasure. I know, just speaking before, obviously, the show, and you mentioned the group, and obviously how much it's taken off and for YouTube, and it's so great getting these former players on and just discussing memories. And as I was saying a couple of shows ago, I was at a former players event with Paul a couple of games ago against Burnley, and so much things going on. But the one thing that stood out to me was half time, and there was so many tables and players talking. And it was just, can you remember this time? Can you remember this play? And players laughing and smiling. So the 4 people I've run so far, or 5 players, it's exactly the same. It's just that one little memory. and it just sparks that smile, and you can just see it. It comes back to them. It's brilliant when you're talking. It's really good.
No, it is brilliant. You know, I mean, the club have been fantastic. You know, they've embraced. I mean, Paul Watson has been a massive advocate of getting the players up and running. The club have bought into it, you know, which is fantastic. You know, which is brilliant. And they make us so welcome when we go there. And it is, you know what I mean? I mean, there's lads there, you know, I said before, like 80, you know what I mean? You see people for 30 odd years, you know what I mean? And it's the same with, you know, some of the lads I was apprentices with and grew up with, and we haven't seen them since the day, you know, one of us left Newcastle, you know, and that's what, 30 odd years ago, you know, so, and yeah, and you remember, you know, I mentioned something before about being in San Antonio when we were apprentices and all the lads were there. And I remember we had a jukebox and we played the same song every day. And I remember what that song was. I'm going to tell you because it's not a great song, but I remember that. Do you know what I mean? So there was memories there that, you know, it's still fresh as a daisy in our minds. So, yeah, when we all get back together, there's always something to talk about and laugh about. And do you know what I mean? You raise everyone's spirits, you know.
Yeah, it's fantastic, man. No, it is. But no, again, everyone, thank you so much for tuning in again, watching. Had loads of people watching live tonight, which is fantastic. Comments coming in. I think up to like nearly 240 subscribers now. Just people want to see more and more. So hopefully we get a few of them up former players on. So if you haven't already, if you're watching for the first time, hit that subscribe and help the channel grow. It would really mean a lot to myself and everyone that's involved in Toon Talk at the minute. But thank you so much for coming out. It really does mean a lot.
Right. Brilliant, mate. Thank you very much. I've loved it.
Excellent. So thank you for watching, everyone. Thanks.
See you later.